So earlier this year, I had been invited on a YouTuber's podcast by the name of David Shapiro, and his channel is called Systems Thinking. And the overall episode that this was for was a series of interviews that David was having with different people from his community who had reached out to be interviewed for this channel and to speak on different topics as it relates to systems thinking. And during the course of the interview, I had brought up a couple of different topics that I wanted to take the opportunity to expand on a little bit more and provide a few concrete examples as to how to actually engage and use these different techniques and concepts. All right. So the topic I wanted to talk about today is called Synectics. And to read out just a brief definition here, Synectics is a creative problem-solving approach that uses metaphor and analogy to take things that are seemingly unrelated and bridge the gap between them, and to use that as a springboard to help solve or come up with more unique solutions to complex problems. So this is something that I'm a big fan of personally because it's fun, first and foremost. And I'm somebody who thinks in and works a lot with metaphors and analogies. You could probably say that it's one of my main communication styles when I'm talking to people, and mainly to make sure that my message is received. One of the main concepts or attributes of Synectics is making the strange familiar and the familiar strange. So first, just a brief history of Synectics. So it was originally developed by two guys named George Prince and William Gordon, and they were both members of a consulting company called Arthur D. Little Incorporated. Initially, it was developed as a creative problem-solving approach, but over time, it evolved to more of a broader application to creativity and innovation in general. So what are some of the unique aspects of Synectic? So some of the unique aspects of Synectics are a focus on emotion, a valuing of the irrelevant, and in general, just a creative environment. Synectics itself is interesting because it plays around more with seeming very unrelated concepts depending on the nature of the analogy or what's being used as the overall guiding metaphor. So some of the techniques that are used are direct analogy, personal analogy, symbolic analogy, and force of fit as an example. So a direct analogy would be drawing parallels between similar situations in other fields or domains. So for example, if you're looking at, let's say, hiring. So if you're building a team and you're trying to figure out the best way to go about that, you could look at how different industries than the one that you're in go about hiring. You could take a look at and see a direct comparison to, let's say, how does the military handle recruitment as an example, and try to draw parallels to help provide insight for the current challenge at hand and perhaps a different way of approaching it. So a personal analogy is where things start to get a little bit interesting. So personal analogy would be placing yourself into imagining yourself in the place of an object or a situation to gain insights. So a good example would be you're trying to solve wait times at a local coffee shop. One of the things that you could do is put yourself in the place of one of your customers, right? Be the customer in a mental analogy and walk through their experience to try to think of different ways from based on what they see on how you could improve the wait times. So another way of looking at it would be imagine that you are the cup of coffee and follow the journey as the coffee goes from being made all the way to the customer's hand to see if there's any insights that can be gained about how to improve wait times for that coffee shop. So the last type of analogy is the symbolic analogy. And this is the one that we're going to talk about more later today, just to use as a more in-depth example. This is where you go completely out of the realm of the real and you focus on very abstract representation. And lastly, another mention would be force of fit. So this would be just like this, I would say it's similar to trying to solve writer's block almost, where you take two ideas. So let's say your problem that you're trying to solve is, again, the wait times at a coffee shop, right? So for force of fit, you would pick any unrelated idea or solution to try to simulate unconventional thinking. So we'll say, all right, we've got wait times at a coffee shop. Let's go with scuba diving. I don't know. Take scuba diving and wait times at a coffee shop. And by looking at the two there, how can we draw parallels between them, right? Yeah. Take those two, mash them together, and try to see what you can do to draw parallels and how that might stimulate a possible solution. So in this case then, to provide a little bit more of a hands-on explanation and a little bit of practice with Synectics, what I'd like to do is to choose a goal. And that goal that I've chosen here is identifying possible solutions for how artificial intelligence can help U.S. citizens better understand and engage with U.S. democracy and legislation. So in general, there's any number of ways that we could go about this, but what I'd like to do for this exercise is use a symbolic analogy to explore different options that we might be able to come up with for how to do this. So for the analogy, you often hear artificial intelligence being referred to as the magic of AI. So let's go with that literally, right? Let's say that AI is a wizard in this case, in this analogy, and we're going to say that this goal that we're working towards is now a quest. With that, we have a new quest. So in this analogy, we are a wizard, right? And according to this quest here, the Lord of the Land has summoned us, and he's looking to have us teach the people about the potential of magic to improve their lives. So the objective remains the same in that it's to help promote understanding and engagement, but we've changed the setting now to a wizard in a fantasy realm, and now it's about magic rather than artificial intelligence, right? So from this point forward, we'll keep our new goal, our quest of better understanding and engaging with magic as the new focus point there. We're going to completely forget about the original goal that we had there and run with this. So just to start off then, let's take a look at what we have. So as a wizard, you've got potions, enchantments, spells. You got a bunch of knowledge about magic itself. Depending on what kind of wizard you are, you probably studied magic for a long time, so you understand the underlying principles and theories that are related to magic. You've got magic itself, too. As a wizard, you can cast spells, you can cast healing magic, illusion magic, combat magic like fireballs, and many other types of magic there. So there's quite a bit we have to play with here in this analogy, so let's go further. So some of the different solutions that we could think of then as a wizard trying to solve the problem of engaging with magic and understanding it more for the townspeople would be we could open a magical clinic, right? We could demonstrate to the townspeople in a very tangible, hands-on way the restorative aspects of healing magic, and then also through leveraging the potions that we have to cure illness or things of that sort. Another option might be we could open up a magical library and go more of the self-learning approach where we provide the knowledge and make it accessible so that people can explore it on their own and engage with it as they are comfortable or as they are willing to approach and learn it. Or another idea might be a magical street fair. So this could be a demonstration with fireballs into the sky and trying to provide an insight into magic or get people interested in magic in a more fun and festive atmosphere. So combining their different types of magic to actually make that happen. So before we go on a little bit further here to engage with these possible ideas that I've just come up with, there are a couple different techniques in Synectics that you can use to try and further refine solutions or come up with new ideas. And I'm not going to go through each one of these here, but basically by taking these techniques and applying them to your solutions, you're able to further generate additional ideas and insights from them. So we'll take a look at a couple of them here in the next bit. So with our magic clinic, then let's explore what can we add to that to make it more robust or provide additional ideas on how the magic clinic itself would solve the challenge of promoting more understanding and engagement with magic amongst the townspeople, right? So we could add to that a magical garden that's adjacent to the clinic. This could be where the wizards that are working at the clinic and the other healers grow the herbs that they need for their potions or any other salves that they're using. And simultaneously, the garden could be used to educate visitors who are there at the clinic and use the garden to highlight the connection between nature and magic. So being able to make the arcane less unfamiliar and tie that more back to the natural order of things, right? Like literally nature and plants and herbs and whatnot. So that's an option. We can add a magical garden. Another option is what can we remove from this to perhaps change? So when we think about clinics, traditionally, most services all cost money, even in fantasy worlds. And we could remove, let's say, the cost associated with the clinic, but instead of accepting gold or any other form of currency, we could instead accept different forms of payment like volunteering or donations. Perhaps people could donate things that the clinic needs for like bandages, or they could volunteer their time to work as launderers for the bed sheets or to tend the garden with the herbs, as an example. So we could remove the cost and add another element of alternative payment there as an option. So another technique then might be transferring. So taking a concept from something else and transferring that over to this analogy here. So if we take, let's say, the concept of a teaching hospital and apply that to our magical clinic, what does that look like in this scenario here? So we take people who are aspiring healers and potion makers, and they can go through an apprenticeship under the tutelage of the wizards who work at the magic clinic in order to not only learn a new and valuable skill, but also to further demystify it by understanding how it all works and learning it themselves and being able to explain that to other people or other townsfolk, as an example. So if we take a step back then and we look at what we've put together so far, we've got our magic clinic, and what do these other things do for us that we just thought of as far as accomplishing our quest? So if we look at the healing clinic itself using healing magic and potions, the main outcome of this as a choice is that it provides tangible evidence of magic's benefits, right? You can see the wound on the villager healing up before your eyes, right? You could feel that your illness is going away as you drink the healing potion. You could see the wounds closing on yourself, right? It's very tangible and easy to see there, which would help the townsfolk in general overcome wariness and skepticism as one of the many benefits. So if we look at the garden then, as that we had suggested through the addition there, this could be used as an interactive educational tool. Not only does it provide the benefit of the herbs that could be used for additional potions, but it would also encourage people to engage with magic in their daily lives in a more mundane way. So by removing the cost barrier, that makes the clinic itself accessible to more community members within the village who may or may not have had the funds in order to afford the services of a wizard and magical potions. So this further encourages engagement with magic by making it more open. For the teaching hospital, fosters a new generation of practitioners. So this is spreading the knowledge and understanding of magic to additional people who could then go out and do the same, right? So this is more of a scaling effect to help further distribute the understanding and engagement with magic. And then lastly, the fact that the magical clinic is within the village itself would be a constant reminder of magic's positive role in the community. So this also then would start to normalize it as a day-to-day use of magic for all that ails the townspeople. So we can see then when we look at each piece that we introduce to the possible solution here, how it helps to contribute to the overall quest. All right, how we would solve our quest. Let's translate that back then into the real world here and make the fantasy world familiar again. So taking a look at each of the pieces that we had put together for our solution, for the magic clinic, what we're going to do is we're going to break down each one of these as to what they are and how they might translate into the real world, right? So looking at the magic clinic, that is a physical place. It's full of professionals. And what might the correlation be in the real world here? So an example of that might be a government website. It's a place that people can visit, at least digitally, and it's overall respected and a professional place. It's safe in the sense that we know that it's legitimate, right? It's got a .gov domain and people can feel comfortable accessing it, right? So if we look at healing magic and potions, what does that translate to? We can take the tangibility and the fact that they provide tangible evidence and benefits to the townspeople and try to translate that into something that is tangible and hands-on in the real world. So an example for that from our original goal here of trying to promote engagement and understanding of democracy through the use of artificial intelligence, this could be an AI chatbot that's embedded on a government website as an example that visitors could interact with. And it could do anything from help them navigate the site itself to provide insights and explanations about new laws that are being drafted or passed and what they mean for that individual themselves. The chatbot could also break down laws and different types of legislation to help the visitor better envision, what does this mean for me? How does this affect me in my daily life? At our magical garden, Some of the aspects we can take from that are the hands-on aspect of actually interacting with the herbs and the plants that are within the garden and exploring that and making connections between nature and magic. So if we take those concepts then and try to apply that to the real world, that might lead to perhaps an interactive platform that is predominantly AI driven for citizens to explore various aspects of US democracy, right? There could be interactive e-learnings that have different types of quizzes and activities within them. And it could also have different callouts that highlight the interconnectedness of democracy's elements. So looking then at our teaching hospital model, this could equate to mentorship and skill acquisition. What this could maybe look like then for our real world solution might be like an AI assisted civic engagement program that connects citizens with various politically active people to learn new skills, to learn how to leverage and foster mentorship and skill building. This could be courses on leveraging AI as an example and interacting and how to interact with the technology, use it to your benefit, to understand what some of the risks and challenges with the current technology is. This could be courses on systems thinking, critical thinking, strategic thinking, all different types of cognitive skills that are beneficial when trying to be a well-informed citizen and understand how different pieces of legislation will affect you and impact your daily life. So if we look at the cost aspect of it, taking away the aspects of free or like volunteering from our fantasy analogy, then this could maybe take the form of, again, additional free things available to the user, like different tools or courses, resources, all available on the same website or within this chatbot tool. For the volunteering, this could be trying to promote different people within the political sphere to actually volunteer their time on the platform itself as a way of giving back, as another form of public service almost, so to speak. And then another option for kind of, again, free and volunteering might be some of the skills that the platform could teach might be around, let's say, no code, low code development, or even just learning development as a skill through, let's say, Python as an example. And one of the things that could be exchanged then is that the people who are learning these skills in coding and programming could then give back to the website by doing a bit of what's called citizen development and making enhancements to the website itself or additional widgets and things of the sort to improve the overall experience and to keep it going and evolving over time. And lastly, taking a look at the community aspect of the medical clinic being within the village itself. There's a social element there with being able to interact with the villagers and the people in day-to-day life. This could be that the chatbot AI tool there aggregates information from across different government websites and is able to provide that to the user all in one place. This could be different types of civic engagement exercises, like, for example, doing like a shadow council where people can get together in groups and vote on different bits of legislation as if they were the elected representatives and see what conclusions that they come to, and also start to understand what it's like to be in politics as an example. So mirroring or shadowing, as the name suggests, what's going on in the actual government. And then, of course, there could be a series of polls and discussions that could be going on in order to gain consensus, spread ideas, get people's thoughts, and overall engage more in a dialogue. So if we take this and put it all together then into what this could look like, this will be our proxy solution that we'll be pitching here. So this is engageus.gov or Engage Us. So we're going to make an AI-driven civic engagement platform. And we're going to put together all those different aspects that we just discussed into one holistic platform here. So this could be an example of one way of how to pitch this or what this all could look like in practice, at least. So the platform itself would provide information on AI and engagement with it. It would help the citizens gain understanding of how AI can enhance government services. So this application then being a website with a chatbot embedded in it would give the users firsthand interaction with AI and a chatbot. So overall, when you look at it together, it solves the goal that we were initially looking for by leveraging AI as a way to promote engagement and understanding with democracy. And in general, the citizens using the tool would gain better knowledge and understanding of the democratic process and be able to more easily engage with it through this environment and through the AI chatbot. We can see when you take these different ideas and play around with them that you can come to more of a holistic solution that builds off of each element from the analogy that we were using prior. So, some of the other techniques that we could have leveraged during the course of our analogy, if we take a look at our solution that we have right now, we could try to evolve this even further by leveraging these techniques. So, let's take our engageus.gov site and our AI chatbot and see how we could further evolve this leveraging these techniques here. So, by superimposing, by overlaying something on top of another thing. So, for an example, we could take gamification and superimpose that over our existing website. We could change the size of it and bring it down to a mobile app, as an example. We could substitute a method. So instead of text-based online content, there could be video or audio elements that are introduced into the site to provide different ways for people to engage with it. We could take the concept of fragmentation and break down some of the different concepts that are being taught about into even smaller chunks, almost like micro learnings, let's say, to make learning about the process even more manageable. So if we take a look at the technique of isolation, we could create a dedicated section within the site that has additional resources to address some of the more commonly occurring challenges and barriers to understanding and engaging with democracy. And lastly, leveraging the technique of distortion, there could be an interactive feature on the website that allows the users to engage with different bits of legislation and kind of distort them or change them to see how those might impact other bits of legislation or different constituencies, as an example. So some of the different tools that are helpful for doing Synectic exercises would be AI chatbot. A lot of this presentation was either me talking to myself or engaging with one of these chatbots to be a sounding board or to bounce things off of, and to also help find connections where I wasn't able to see them myself. So being able to leverage a powerful tool such as these is just amazing for this kind of creative thinking. In addition to that, if you're doing it collaboratively with a group, virtual whiteboards are always handy. So programs like Miro or Mural are very good for doing this as a group and being able to visually explore these concepts and organize them as they're being discussed and conceived. Using mind mapping tools like XMind and MindMeister are handy to keep things organized and understandable. And then again, if you're doing this with a group, using collaborative platforms like Google Workspace or Microsoft 365, or in my case, I'm a big fan of ClickUp. It's all very helpful to keep these ideas together and be able to gather some supporting ideas or notes or other bits of research that help to aid to the overall exercise and keep it, again, organized and accessible to everyone who's involved in the exercise. And there's a live aspect of it as well, too. You can do in real time a lot of these things together with others, which just makes it more fun in general. So I've put together as well some tips for engaging in Synectic exercises, and those would be, first and foremost, suspending judgment. And mainly because when you're working with analogies, it's important to keep an open mind and go with the flow, right? Like a wizard and quests and whatnot might seem really far out there in comparison to the actual goal at hand of AI, but that's half the point, is to be able to take those steps and really immerse yourself in the analogy. By suspending judgment as well, if you're doing this collaboratively, it also makes it more approachable, so people aren't shooting down other people's ideas, which ultimately ends up detracting from the overall experience and is counterintuitive to the point of the exercise, right? If you're trying to get creative ideas and engage with other people, shooting their ideas down doesn't really help to facilitate free flow of thought. So next, another tip would be to do this iteratively. You can come up with new analogies. You can go through the same analogy with multiple groups of people and aggregate the answers. You can go through rounds of even just applying the techniques of going through addition, subtraction, transferal, and so on, and then back to the top again and add something new and different each time. It also helps too, as you're going through these exercises, whether it's in the context of the analogy or just the initial goal from the outset, the more you can clarify the problem and ensure that you're solving the right issue, the more effective that these exercises will be and get you closer to a real solution that will be the most effective. So the other piece then would be just a reminder to keep the focus and to try to maintain focus and perspective. So during the course of the exercise, I'd brought back the focus to what the goal was in either the analogy or initially, to make sure that is what is kept in mind. The wizard didn't run off to go fight an oncoming army. The wizard didn't do anything else that wasn't related to magic and trying to promote the understanding and engagement of it to try to keep things more on track and at least aligned within the course of the exercise. And then you can also use perspective to reframe the challenge, right? If the goal of helping citizens engage and understand democracy more is from the perspective of the government, right? What if we reframe that challenge statement or that goal from the perspective of the citizenry? What might that look like? What if we reframed it from the perspective of a migrant or a limited English speaker, as an example? And then lastly, the other tip there would be to experiment, try multiple analogies, use different combinations of the techniques that we had gone over there. And the last tip that I would have is to have fun. I had a lot of fun putting this presentation together, getting to research into all these different topics and provide more information, break them down, help to solidify my understanding of them as well. I'm still learning a lot of this, but each new piece of information that I come across is always interesting to learn and helps to further refine my understanding of a particular topic. I think techniques like Synectics are important for people to engage with, both in terms of their value that they can add to creative problem solving, but also for engaging that part of the brain that we don't, I think in professional life, we don't so frequently get to engage with. So the having fun aspect of it is definitely something that I would recommend. It'll also allows you to engage your passions and other interests in the context of your work or of a challenge that you're trying to solve. So it's definitely something that I would recommend giving a try. Thank you very much for your time, and I will be putting out some additional videos with some of the other topics that I covered in the interview with David Shapiro in the near future. So stay tuned for that. Thanks for watching.